In the 17th century, the world stood at the edge of discovery. And at the center of that storm was one man, Galileo Galilei. Born in 1564 in Pisa, Italy, Galileo was more than a scientist. He was a mathematician, astronomer, philosopher, and a believer in God. But his story became one of the greatest conflicts between science and faith in history. Galileo looked up at the night sky. Through a telescope he improved, with his own hands. What he saw would change the world forever. He discovered mountains on the moon. He observed the moons of Jupiter. He saw that Venus had phases just like our moon. These discoveries supported the theory, first proposed by Copernicus, that the Earth was not the center of the universe. Instead, the Earth moved around the sun. This idea, called heliocentrism, challenged the long-held belief that the Earth stood still, at the center of God's creation. But here is what many people misunderstand. Galileo was not trying to fight God. He believed that science and faith were not enemies. In fact, Galileo once wrote that the Bible teaches us how to go to heaven, not how the heavens go. To him, studying nature was another way of understanding God's creation. He believed God gave humans intelligence to explore, question, and discover. But in 1633, Galileo was called before the Roman Inquisition in Rome. The church feared that heliocentrism contradicted scripture and threatened religious authority. Under pressure, at nearly 70 years old, Galileo was forced to publicly deny his findings. He was sentenced to house arrest for the rest of his life. Imagine that, a brilliant mind confined to his home, blind in his later years, separated from the world he longed to study. Yet even in house arrest, he continued to write. He continued to think. He continued to believe. Galileo never abandoned his faith. He did not see science as rebellion against God. He saw it as reading the language in which God wrote the universe. Mathematics. His conflict was not truly between science and faith. It was between new evidence and old interpretations. Centuries later, in 1992, the Vatican formally acknowledged the errors made in Galileo's case. History had turned. Today, Galileo is remembered as the father of modern science. But more than that, he is a symbol that faith and science do not have to destroy each other. Science asks, how does it work? Faith asks, why does it matter? And perhaps both questions are necessary. Galileo's life reminds us that truth does not fear investigation, and faith, when rooted in humility, does not fear discovery. The same sky that once caused controversy now inspires astronauts, scientists and believers alike. And somewhere in that vast universe, the legacy of Galileo still whispers. In 1642, as Galileo Galilei took his final breath, he left behind more than discoveries. He left a testimony that faith and reason can walk together. He never stopped believing that the universe he studied was the work of a wise and powerful God. That same year, Isaac Newton was born, a child who would one day uncover the laws of motion and gravity. Newton too believed that the order of the cosmos, a perfectly designed system, created by an intelligent creator. It was as if heaven allowed one servant of science to rest, while raising another. And when we look up at the skies tonight, when the universe feels too big, too quiet, too endless, remember this: the same God who set the galaxies in motion also listens to your prayers. The same God who guided the planets guides your life. And just as Galileo believed, we too can say, God is the master of all,